The signal arrived on a quiet Wednesday morning, breaking through the monotony at the Global Space Communications Center in Geneva. Dr. Sarah Chen had been reviewing routine data streams when her systems detected something extraordinary, a perfectly structured series of mathematical sequences coming from the direction of the Pleiades cluster. Sarah's hands trembled as she verified the signal for the third time. After 15 years of searching the stars for signs of intelligent life, they had finally found something. Or rather, something had found them. "Director Matthews, you need to see this," she called out, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The facility director appeared at her station within minutes, his usual composure cracking as he reviewed the data. Within hours, every major observatory and listening post on Earth confirmed the signal. It wasn't just random cosmic noise or a glitch in the systems. This was a deliberate message, encoded with prime numbers and mathematical constants that transcended any human language barrier. The response from the global community was immediate and electric. Social media exploded with theories and speculation. World leaders held emergency sessions, religious figures debated the theological implications, and in secure facilities across the planet, the brightest minds in cryptography worked tirelessly to decode the full message. It took 3 days to decrypt the complete transmission. The message was elegant in its simplicity. "We are the Meridian Council. We come in peace and fellowship. Prepare for contact." The next 2 weeks were a blur of global preparation. International protocols for first contact, long relegated to the realm of science fiction, were hastily formalized. A unified Earth Response Committee was established, comprising scientists, diplomats, and military leaders from every major nation. When the Meridian Council's ship appeared in orbit, it defied all human expectations. Instead of the metallic constructs of science fiction, their vessel resembled a crystalline lattice, shimmering with colors that seemed to shift between dimensions. It was beautiful, advanced, and utterly alien. The Council's representatives chose to make their first landing outside the United Nations headquarters in New York. Millions watched through screens as 3 beings emerged from their craft. They were humanoid in basic form, but their skin had a translucent quality that seemed to pulse with internal light. Their movements were graceful, almost liquid, as if gravity held less sway over them. "We greet Earth with joy and anticipation," the lead representative announced in perfect English, their words somehow reaching every ear without the need for speakers or amplification. "We are but one part of a vast community of civilizations, and we have watched your species with great interest." The Council painted an enchanting picture of galactic civilization. They spoke of thousands of species living in harmony, sharing knowledge and resources. They described technologies that could end disease, hunger, and environmental degradation. They offered humanity a chance to join this grand alliance. World leaders, eager to secure their place in history, rushed to accept the Council's offered friendship. International cooperation reached unprecedented levels as the Council established cultural exchange centers in major cities across the globe. They shared carefully selected technologies, medical advances that cured previously terminal conditions, energy systems that promised to end dependency on fossil fuels, and agricultural innovations that could turn deserts into farmland. Dr. Chen, now heading the scientific liaison team with the Council, found herself at the heart of this transformation. She worked closely with the aliens, marveling at their advanced understanding of physics and mathematics. Yet something about their perfect responses and carefully measured revelations nagged at her scientific instincts. Late one night, while reviewing data from the Council's ship, she noticed something odd. The energy signatures from their vessel didn't match their explained technological principles. She began digging deeper, cross-referencing their stated capabilities with observed phenomena. The discrepancies were subtle but consistent. The Council wasn't lying exactly, but they were clearly withholding crucial information. Sarah began documenting her findings, encrypting them with old-fashioned methods the Council wouldn't expect humans to still use. Her breakthrough came when she discovered a pattern in the Council's ship movements. They weren't just conducting the diplomatic and scientific missions they'd announced. They were systematically mapping Earth's resources, paying particular attention to certain rare elements and geological formations. The truth hit her like a physical blow. The Council's interest in Earth wasn't about uplifting humanity. They were conducting a comprehensive survey of assets and capabilities. Their gifts of technology weren't meant to help humanity advance. They were meant to create dependency. Sarah looked out her office window at the gleaming council tower that now dominated the Geneva skyline. Its beautiful crystalline structure, once a symbol of hope, now seemed more like a spider's web. Humanity had welcomed these advanced beings with open arms, never questioning why such a powerful civilization would take such interest in the relatively primitive species. She knew she needed to act, but she also knew she needed to be smart about it. The Council's technology was likely monitoring all modern communications. She began reaching out to trusted colleagues using old-school methods. Hand-delivered notes, meetings in places without electronic devices, coded messages hidden in routine data transmissions. A resistance network began to form, comprised of scientists, military personnel, and government officials who shared her suspicions. They worked in absolute secrecy, knowing that any premature revelation would be disastrous. The Council's ships in orbit could probably reduce Earth's military capabilities to ash in minutes if they chose to. The Council, meanwhile, continued their charm offensive. They hosted spectacular demonstrations of their technology, offered tours of their facilities, and continued to praise humanity's potential. But now, Sarah and her growing network of allies could see the calculated nature of every interaction, the careful way they managed humanity's access to knowledge. They were playing a long game, she realized. The question was, what was their true endgame? And more importantly, could humanity find a way to counter it before it was too late? As Sarah encrypted another set of findings and passed it to her network, she couldn't help but appreciate the irony. The Council had chosen Earth because they thought humans were primitive and easily manipulated. They were about to learn that underestimating humanity was a dangerous mistake. The underground lab was a relic from the Cold War, its existence scrubbed from official records decades ago. Now it served as the nerve center for humanity's silent resistance. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a group of 30 individuals. Military officers, scientists, intelligence operatives, all chosen for their expertise and discretion. "This is what they don't want us to see," she said, activating a holographic display. The image showed a complex molecular structure rotating in the air. "This isn't just about resources. The Council is studying us, specifically our biology." Commander David Torres, formerly of NATO's Special Operations, leaned forward. "What exactly are we looking at, Doctor?" "Their medical gifts aren't just treating diseases, they're mapping human genetic sequences. Every person who's received their miracle cures has unknowingly provided them with detailed biological data." Sarah manipulated the display, highlighting specific patterns. "But here's what's interesting. They're particularly focused on our adaptability." Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a quantum physicist from Japan, spoke up. "The Council's technology, it's not as advanced as they want us to believe, is it?" Sarah shook her head. "No, it's advanced, but in different ways than they've shown us. They're masters of biological engineering and manipulation. The technology they shared is carefully chosen to make us dependent on them, while revealing nothing of their true capabilities." The revelation sparked intense discussion among the group. They had all seen evidence of the Council's deception in their respective fields, but this was the first time they were piecing together the complete picture. "There's more," Sarah continued. "We've detected unusual energy signatures from their orbital platforms. They're not just observation posts, they're containment facilities. The Council has done this before, to other species." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't being uplifted. They were being farmed. Commander Torres broke the silence. "We need a plan. We can't match their technology head-on, but we might not have to." "Dr. Chen, what have you learned from studying their systems?" Sarah smiled grimly. Everything they've given us has a backdoor, not because they're careless, but because they're arrogant. They don't think we're capable of understanding their base technologies, let alone improving them. Over the next several hours, the group formulated their strategy. They would need to work on multiple fronts, developing countermeasures, gathering intelligence, and most importantly, finding allies among the stars. Dr. Tanaka had made a crucial discovery. The Council's transmissions contained encrypted channels, communications with other species that weren't part of their public face. Some of these species had energy signatures that suggested they were prisoners or unwilling servants. If we can reach out to these other species, Sarah proposed, we might find allies who have their own reasons to oppose the Council. The plan was dangerous but necessary. Using modified Council communication technology, they began broadcasting coded messages on the encrypted channels. The messages were simple. We know the truth. We resist. Are we alone? For weeks, there was no response. The resistance continued their work, reverse engineering Council technology, while maintaining their cover of willing subordinates. Sarah attended Council meetings, smiled at their representatives, all while gathering data on their true operations. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. During a routine analysis of Council waste materials, one of the few ways they could get unfiltered samples of their technology, they discovered microscopic machines. These nanites were different from anything the Council had revealed, and more importantly, they contained coding that didn't match Council protocols. These aren't theirs, Dr. Tanaka announced excitedly. These are from someone else, someone who's already fighting them. The discovery led to their first contact with the Dissent, a loose alliance of species who had either escaped Council control or avoided it altogether. Through carefully encrypted communications, they learned the full scope of the Council's operations across hundreds of star systems. The Council's modus operandi was consistent: find developing civilizations, offer them advancement, create dependency, and then slowly transform them into biological resources. Some species were turned into literal organic processing units for their biomechanical technology. Others were genetically modified into specialized worker castes. But the Dissent had also learned the Council's greatest weakness: their rigid hierarchy and inability to comprehend genuine resistance. They believed so completely in their superiority that they couldn't adapt when their carefully laid plans went awry. The Resistance now had allies and intelligence, but they still needed a way to protect Earth. The Council's orbital platforms could destroy major cities in minutes if they discovered the extent of human knowledge. Sarah and her team worked tirelessly to develop a defense system, combining Council technology with human innovation in ways their creators never imagined. They called it Project Prometheus, a network of ground-based energy deflectors disguised as Council medical facilities. They see what they expect to see, Sarah explained to the Resistance leadership. Their scans show exactly what we want them to show: grateful humans eagerly accepting their gifts. Meanwhile, the Resistance's understanding of Council technology grew exponentially. They discovered that many of their miraculous devices were actually based on fairly simple principles. It was the integration and application that made them seem advanced. Human scientists, free to experiment without the Council's artificial limitations, began making improvements. The Council, believing their plan was proceeding perfectly, continued to expand their presence on Earth. They established more facilities, increased their cultural exchange programs, and began suggesting that humans might soon be ready for the next phase of their development. Sarah knew what that meant. According to the Dissent, the next phase was when the Council began their true harvest. They would present it as a grand advancement: voluntary genetic modifications to improve humanity. Those who accepted would be the first to be transformed into biological tools for the Council's vast machine empire. But humanity wasn't following the Council's carefully calculated patterns of development. In secret bunkers and hidden labs around the world, humans were preparing for a confrontation that would shake the foundations of galactic society. As Sarah reviewed the latest progress reports, she allowed herself a moment of fierce pride. The Council had chosen Earth because they thought humans were primitive and easily controlled. Instead, they had awakened a force they couldn't comprehend. Human ingenuity driven by the need to survive. The Resistance's underground facility hummed with activity as Dr. Sarah Chen reviewed the latest simulation results. On massive holographic displays, streams of data showed the integration of human and alien technology, progressing far beyond their initial expectations. What had started as desperate reverse engineering had evolved into something entirely new. "We're ready for the next phase," Commander Torres announced, studying a tactical overlay of Earth's defense grid. Hidden beneath the Council's own infrastructure, humanity had built a network of countermeasures that turned the alien surveillance systems against them. But their greatest achievements sat in a heavily shielded chamber deep underground. The quantum computer they created merged Council biotechnology with human innovation, processing data in ways that even the aliens hadn't conceived. They called it NEXUS, and it was their secret weapon in the Shadow War. "The Council's getting suspicious," Dr. Tanaka reported, bringing up recent surveillance footage. "They've noticed that some of their technology is performing better than expected. They're attributing it to human maintenance crews being more efficient than anticipated, but they're increasing their monitoring." Sarah nodded grimly. "Then we're right on schedule. Have our allies in the Descent confirmed their positions?" The answer came in the form of an encrypted quantum burst transmission. Across the galaxy, other resistant species were preparing for coordinated action. The Council's empire was vast, but its very size made it vulnerable to simultaneous disruption at multiple points. Through NEXUS, they had discovered something remarkable about Council technology. It wasn't just mechanical or biological, but a fusion of both that relied heavily on quantum entanglement. This meant that a properly timed disruption could cascade through their entire network. "The Council thinks they're studying us," Sarah explained to a group of new Resistance members. "But we've been studying them far more effectively. They see what they want to see, a primitive species struggling to understand their gifts. They don't realize we've already surpassed their understanding in several key areas. One of these areas was human consciousness itself. The Council's biotechnology was designed to interface with and ultimately control organic minds. But human consciousness proved remarkably resistant to their standard methods of manipulation. Instead of seeing this as a warning sign, the Council viewed it as evidence of human primitiveness. The Resistance used this blind spot to their advantage. They developed interfaces that appeared to work according to Council specifications, but actually operated on entirely different principles. Every piece of Council technology installed on Earth was secretly being modified, transformed into a component of humanity's defense system. Commander Torres coordinated with military forces worldwide, preparing them for the inevitable confrontation. Traditional weapons would be useless against Council technology, but hybrid weapons combining human ingenuity with alien principles showed tremendous promise in simulations. "We're not just fighting for survival anymore," Sarah told the Resistance leadership. "We're fighting for humanity's right to determine its own path. The Council sees us as resources to be harvested. We need to show them, and the galaxy, that humanity is no one's resource." The Council, meanwhile, continued their seemingly benevolent occupation of Earth. They praised humanity's quick adoption of their technology, never realizing that what they were observing was a carefully crafted illusion. Every time they scanned Earth's progress, they saw exactly what humans wanted them to see. Through their allies in the Descent, the Resistance learned more about the Council's true nature. They weren't just conquerors, they were parasites on a galactic scale. Their entire civilization was built on the exploitation of other species, transformed into living components of their vast biological machine empire. "They don't create anymore," explained a Descent operative during a secure communication. "They only consume and adapt. That's why your species terrifies them, though they don't realize it yet. Humans still create, still innovate. You take existing ideas and transform them into something new." This insight proved crucial to their planning. While the Council's technology was undeniably advanced, it was also stagnant. They hadn't truly innovated in millennia, relying instead on their ability to absorb and repurpose the developments of other species. Sarah's team took full advantage of this weakness. They developed hybrid technologies that appeared to follow Council principles, but actually operated on entirely new ones. Every piece of Council technology gifted to humanity was carefully studied, improved upon, and subtly modified to serve Earth's defense. The Resistance also began reaching out to other species under Council control, using the encrypted channels they'd discovered. Many of these species had long since lost hope of resistance, but the human example rekindled their fighting spirit. A vast underground network began to form, sharing information and resources beneath the Council's notice. HFY proved invaluable in coordinating these efforts. Its unique architecture allowed it to process and distribute information in ways that bypassed Council surveillance entirely. Through this hidden network, plans were made, strategies coordinated, and hope spread among the oppressed species of the galaxy. "We're approaching a tipping point," Sarah announced during a critical strategy session. "The Council's about to announce the next phase of their development program for Earth. When they do, they'll expect us to eagerly embrace genetic modification. Instead, they're going to learn that humanity has other plans." As she spoke, resistance cells around the world were finalizing their preparations. In hidden facilities, hybrid weapons were stockpiled. In secret labs, defensive systems were brought online. In orbital installations, disguised as Council observation posts, human operators maintained their cover while preparing for the signal to act. The Council had no idea that their carefully managed puppet show was about to explode in their face. They had spent thousands of years perfecting their system of conquest through manipulation, never imagining that a primitive species could turn it against them. Sarah looked at the determined faces around her and felt a surge of pride. Humanity had done more than just resist. They had evolved, adapted, and grown stronger. The Council thought they were uplifting a primitive species. Instead, they had given humanity the tools to forge themselves into something unprecedented in the galaxy, a species that could match the Council's technology while maintaining their independence and creativity. The stage was set. The players were in position. Soon, very soon, the Council would learn the true cost of underestimating human potential. The day the Council announced their evolution initiative dawned like any other. Their crystalline towers gleamed in the morning sun as their representatives prepared to address humanity with their usual benevolent smiles. They had no idea they were about to trigger their own downfall. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the Council's Grand Assembly Hall, maintaining her facade of earnest cooperation, even as HFY counted down in her hidden earpiece. Around her, other resistance members were similarly positioned throughout the gathering, each playing their part in humanity's greatest deception. The Council's High Administrator took the stage, its translucent form glowing with what humans now knew to be biomechanical augmentations. "Honored friends of Earth," it began, "today marks the beginning of your species' greatest advancement." As the administrator spoke of genetic gifts and biological transcendence, Sarah thought of all the species that had heard these same honeyed words before being transformed into living components of the Council's machine empire. But humanity had prepared for this moment for years. Commander Tor's voice came through the secure quantum channel. "All teams in position, waiting for your signal, Doctor." The administrator was reaching the crucial part of its speech. "We invite humanity to embrace its destiny. Our genetic modification protocols will elevate your species to new heights of existence." Sarah took a deep breath and spoke the words that would change everything. "We respectfully decline." The administrator paused, its glow flickering in what might have been confusion. "I don't understand. This is a great honor we offer." "We understand exactly what you're offering," Sarah replied, her voice carrying through the hall. "We've understood for quite some time." The Council representatives' benevolent expressions began to shift. The High Administrator's form pulsed with darker colors. "Dr. Chen, you seem to be laboring under some misunderstanding. These modifications are not optional. They are the next step in our established protocol." Sarah smiled. No, you're the one laboring under a misunderstanding. Humanity is not your resource to harvest. We are not your tools to reshape, and we are not alone in rejecting your guidance anymore. The administrator's form fully darkened now, its true nature showing through its carefully maintained facade. You know nothing. You are children playing with powers beyond your comprehension. Our ships in orbit will reduce your civilization to ash if you resist. About those ships, Sarah said, activating her neural link to NEXUS. Check their status. Confusion rippled through the council representatives as their connections to their orbital platforms went dark. Across Earth's sky, the council's mighty vessels found themselves trapped in fields of quantum disruption, their crews unable to access their weapon systems. Impossible, the administrator hissed. This technology is beyond you. No, Sarah corrected. It's beyond what you thought we were capable of. Every piece of technology you gave us, we studied. Every system you installed, we improved. Every weakness you showed us, we exploited. Throughout the hall, other humans were standing up, dropping their pretenses of submission. Around the world, hidden defense systems activated, revealing themselves as far more advanced than anything the Council had gifted to humanity. The administrator raised its arm, biomechanical weapons forming from its flesh. But before it could act, the entire Council delegation found themselves contained within fields of hybrid energy, their powers neutralized by technology they had never imagined humans could develop. Your entire empire is built on consumption, Sarah explained, walking toward the contained administrator. You find developing civilizations, manipulate them, harvest them. You haven't truly created anything new in thousands of years. But humans, creation is what we do best. Through NEXUS, Sarah could see similar scenes playing out across the galaxy. Other species, coordinated through the hidden network humanity had helped build, were rising up against their council overlords. The carefully maintained hierarchy of the council's empire was crumbling in the face of unprecedented resistance. You gave us the tools to interface with your technology, Commander Tori said, stepping forward. But you never wondered why we seemed to learn just quickly enough to be useful, but never quickly enough to be threatening. You saw what you expected to see. Primitive beings grateful for your guidance. The administrator's form writhed within its containment field. You cannot hope to maintain this rebellion. Our empire spans galaxies. We have controlled the development of species for millions of years. Had controlled. Sarah corrected. Past tense. Look around you. Really look. Those energy fields holding you. They're based on your technology, yes, but we can prove them in ways you never considered. The quantum network disrupting your ships. It operates on principles your society forgot about millennia ago. Through her link to NEXUS, Sarah broadcast images throughout the hall. Humans working alongside members of the distant, hybrid technologies that merged multiple species innovations, defense systems that rendered the Council's weapons obsolete. We didn't just resist your control, she explained. We created something new, something you can't consume or corrupt because it's constantly evolving. And we're sharing it with every species you've tried to enslave. The administrator's glow had dimmed to almost nothing. What do you want? First, your complete withdrawal from Earth and all other unwilling worlds, Commander Torres stated. Then, you're going to face judgment from all the species you've attempted to harvest. Not for revenge, but for justice and restoration. As if to emphasize his words, reports were flowing in through NEXUS. Council facilities around the world being secured, their ships disabled, their hidden biological processing centers shut down. The empire that had seemed invincible was being dismantled by the very species it had sought to exploit. You could have been partners, Sarah said softly to the contained council members. You could have genuinely shared knowledge and grown alongside other species. Instead, you chose dominance and stagnation. Now you'll learn what real evolution looks like. The revolution that had been years in the making was finally breaking into the open, and humanity was leading the charge. The Council had sought to make Earth another resource in their empire. Instead, they had given humanity the tools to forge something entirely new. A true alliance of free species, bound not by control but by cooperation and innovation. In the months following humanity's rebellion, the galaxy underwent a transformation unlike anything seen in millennia. The Council's empire, built on manipulation and control, crumbled in the face of unprecedented cooperation between formerly subjugated species. At the heart of this revolution stood Earth, no longer a primitive world to be harvested, but a beacon of innovation and resistance. Dr. Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of humanity's first true starship, the HSV Prometheus. Unlike the crystalline vessels of the Council, this ship represented a true fusion of multiple species technologies and philosophies. Its organic mechanical systems were alive in a way the Council's biotech never had been, adaptive and evolving, rather than merely consuming. The last Council holdouts have surrendered in the Orion sector, Commander Torres reported, joining her at the viewport. Their processing centers are being converted into rehabilitation facilities for their victims. Sarah nodded, watching the stars. NEXUS had expanded far beyond its original purpose, now serving as the backbone of an interstellar communications network that united former Council worlds. Through it, species were rediscovering their lost heritage, while sharing innovations and culture in ways the Council had always forbidden. "How are the Arcturians adapting?" she asked, thinking of one of the species that had been longest under Council control. "Better than expected," Torres replied. "Once we reversed the forced genetic modifications, their natural creativity started resurging. They're already proposing improvements to our hybrid drive systems." This was humanity's true victory, not just defeating the Council, but helping to restore what they had tried to destroy. Every species they had attempted to harvest had its own unique strengths and perspectives. Together, they were achieving things the Council had never dreamed possible. The former Council High Administrator, now held in a specialized containment facility, had finally begun to understand. "You didn't just resist us," it had said during its last interview with Sarah. "You became what we could have been, what we should have been." Earth had changed too. The crystalline towers of the Council remained, but they had been transformed. Instead of centers of control and surveillance, they now housed research facilities where humans worked alongside aliens as equals. The quantum network that had once been meant to enslave humanity now connected Earth to a thriving interstellar community. "We've received another request for diplomatic relations," Torres mentioned. "A species from beyond the former Council space. They'd been watching how we handled the liberation. They're interested in joining the Alliance." The Galactic Alliance of Free Species, GAFS, had emerged from the ashes of the Council's empire. Unlike its predecessor, it was founded on principles of mutual respect and cooperation. Each member species maintained its autonomy while contributing to the greater whole. NEXUS chimed in Sarah's mind, sharing data about the new species. They were different from anything encountered in Council space, silicon-based life forms with a fascinating approach to technology. Their potential contributions to the Alliance could be extraordinary. Send them an invitation to Earth, Sarah decided. Let them see firsthand what we're building here. Through her neural link, she could feel the constant flow of innovation and discovery happening across Alliance space. Former Council worlds were becoming centers of art, science, and cultural exchange. Species that had been reduced to biological processors were rediscovering their voices, their dreams, their potential. "Hard to believe it's only been 8 months, Torres mused. "Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if we just accepted their gifts without question." Sarah shuddered at the thought. "We'd be part of their machinery by now, just more components in their empire of consumption." Instead, she gestured at the viewport, where a ship of distinctly non-human design was approaching. It belonged to the Centaurians, one of the first species to join Earth's rebellion. Its organic technology complemented human innovation in ways that had helped make the Alliance possible. "Instead, we're building something entirely new," she finished. "Not just surviving, but growing, creating, evolving. The door chimed, admitting Dr. Tanaka. "The new quantum cores are ready for testing," he announced excitedly. "The Arcturians helped us solve the stability issues. If this works, we'll be able to establish instantaneous communication across the entire alliance." This was what the Council had never understood about humanity. It wasn't just their resistance to control or their adaptability that made them dangerous. It was their drive to take what existed and transform it into something new, their ability to see possibilities where others saw only established limits. Earth's position in the galaxy had changed forever. Where once they had been seen as primitive beings to be harvested, they were now known as innovators, liberators, and allies. The Council's attempt to subjugate humanity had instead unleashed something unprecedented in the galaxy. A true partnership of diverse species, each contributing their unique strengths to a greater whole. As the Prometheus cruised through space that had once been forbidden to humanity, Sarah reflected on how far they had come. The Council had thought they were uplifting a primitive species, never realizing they were actually awakening a force that would reshape the galaxy. New signal from the edge of mapped space. NAXUS reported through their neural links. Unknown configuration, definitely not Council technology. Sarah exchanged looks with Taurus and Tanaka, seeing her own excitement reflected in their eyes. More species to meet, more discoveries to make, more opportunities to grow and learn and create. The galaxy was vast, and humanity was no longer bound by anyone's limitations but their own. "Let's go say hello," she said, smiling. "After all, that's what we do now. We explore, we innovate, we connect. And this time, we do it as equals." The Prometheus adjusted its course, heading toward the unknown signal. In its wake, the light of countless stars shone on a galaxy transformed, not by conquest or control, but by cooperation, creativity, and the indomitable spirit of species free to forge their own destiny. The Council had sought to make humanity another resource in their vast machine empire. Instead, they had given humans the tools to break not just their own chains, but those of countless other species. In trying to harvest humanity's potential, they had unleashed it, and the galaxy would never be the same.